Well, thank you for wishing us birthday. And then we are in the topic. Human trafficking has been an ongoing business for a long time across the nations of the world. There are certain drivers of this modern criminal trade, and governments are working hard to stem the tide. In this program, we have two main organizations who are deeply involved in anti-human trafficking activities in the Netherlands and within the European Union. They will be shedding some light on current trends and measures being taken to combat this social crime. Our guests today are Ms. Suzanne Hoff, who is the International Coordinator of the Strada International Association, which monitors and coordinates the overall Strada International Network activities and those of the International Secretariat. She is the facto representative of Strada organization at the international level. Previously, Susan had worked coordinating for Strada at the Dutch Foundation Against Trafficking in Women, called STV, where she gained much insight into the trafficking business. Besides Susan's academic qualifications, she also did voluntary work for several years as an editor, reporter, and board member for a Dutch local monthly television program on Central and Eastern Europe on Amsterdam Cable Television. Susan is also responsible for La Strada's staff management and for her contacts with stakeholders, donors, and press. Welcome, Susan, to Radio Voice of Niger. Say something.
Hello.
That's the voice of Suzanne Hoff. Also, our other panelist is Mr. Jerrol Marten, who is the manager at Comensha, an organization responsible for advocating the cause and interest of victims of human trafficking. Well, Jerry, say hello to our listeners.
Good morning, listeners. Nice to be in the program.
Wow. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more of, for a warm-up, please tell our listeners briefly about your organization and the difference between the two, La Strada and the Comensha.
Yes, let me start. La Strada International, as you already said, it's a European broad network. We have members in 8 European countries. We do not focus only on the European Union, but we focus on the European broad level. And what we do, we try to raise attention for the issue. We do lobbying and advocacy. We try to get a lot of data all on the European level, but we have 8 members in Europe, and one of our members is La Strada Netherlands.
Okay.
Our members focus in particular on assistance, on prevention work and lobby work. So I will give the floor to Jerrol to explain a little bit more what Comensha is doing.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Comensha is the Dutch member of the La Strada International. What we do in Holland is we coordinate a lot of work concerning victims of human trafficking. We register all the facts and figures of human trafficking in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
We also help to find shelter for victims. We do lobbying. We help all the different help and social workers if they have questions concerning helping victims of human trafficking.
Wow, quite a great job you are doing. So what exactly do you mean by human trafficking, and since when did it become a criminal activity and offense? Any one of you can always answer.
Yeah, if you look at the issue of human trafficking, actually the discussion and the debate about it and also the legislation is rather old. For example, the Netherlands already had a law around 1911 which already spoke about human trafficking.
Yeah.
But when we talk about human trafficking, we talk more about the definition which actually came to the light around 2000, which is the Palermo Protocol definition, which came from the UN. Mm-hmm. And this, in easy words, says that actually it is a situation when one person or a group of persons is recruited or transferred by another person.
Yes.
With the use of force, of other means,
yeah.
And then be brought in a situation, like a slavery-like situation, with the aim of exploiting that person or group of persons. Mm-hmm. So that's what human trafficking is. In the Netherlands, we have the new legislation, this definition translated in the law in 2005.
Yeah.
And what is the difference since 2005 in many European countries, also in the Netherlands, is that we do not focus only anymore on trafficking of women being exploited in the sex industry, but we look at the much broader issue. So we also look at, for example, men being exploited in construction work. So it's not only anymore women, and it's also not only anymore sex industry.
Wow. So men can be exploited even in their work?
Yes.
Really? Tell us something, Jerrol.
Okay. We've seen an increase in the numbers of male victims of human trafficking in all the different economic sectors. It's in the agriculture sector, it's in also in the house, in what do you call it, restaurant sectors, very broad. And what happens is they're being brought into the country, their papers are being taken from them, so they are a lot of times illegal. They've paid a lot of money to come over here, they're being locked up, forced to do the labor without payment,
Wow.
bad living circumstances, bad, they get they don't get enough food to eat. They're really under bad circumstances, and a lot of times they are being rescued by the police.
From what origins are these people?
Well, that's quite.
This is unbelievable.
It's various. If we look at the figures from last year, for instance, we see in the top 10 mainly Dutch women on the number 1. On the number 2 is Nigeria, also with a lot of women and men. And from the different African countries, we have Sierra Leone on number 7, and Guinea on number 8, and Ghana on number 10. And we are talking about Nigeria. In 2010 were about 130 victims.
Wow.
Sierra Leone were 36.
Wait a minute, Jerry. Nigeria is how many?
130 last year.
130,000?
No, 130, just 100. 130.
113?
Yeah.
Trafficked?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And those are the registered victims. We think that there are more, but those are the victims that the police has actually found, or who has escaped and has give themselves to the police.
To the police.
Yeah.
You made mention about Dutch women.
Yeah.
They are also trafficked?
Yes, there are mainly the younger girls who are victims of lover boys.
Really?
And maybe to say something here is, when I look more at the European situation, in the Netherlands the legislation is a little bit broader, the law is a little bit broader than in other countries. So any minor who works in the Netherlands in prostitution is automatically regarded as a trafficked person, because she's not an adult yet, she could not choose to work voluntarily in prostitution.
They're mostly forced into the prostitution.
Are they forced, or is it that they chose for it? Explain this to us, because people are listening, thousands of people are listening to us. Explain.
The girls that we have to deal with are forced.
That's what they said.
Yes. And a lot of times it's also proven, because they have a lot of cases from that the police form, and they do very good research, and it's brought to the court.
Okay. And additionally, I can say it's very difficult always to define the word voluntarily, even with adult prostitution whatsoever, because you see you and me also in a daily life.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. You need to work, you need a job, you have maybe children you have to look after for it. So even for adults it's very difficult to say whether it's voluntary or not. There are people who decide voluntarily to work in prostitution, minors or not minors.
Yeah.
However, what we have very much well defined now in the UN Palermo Protocol is that the issue of consent, whether or not a person is willing to work there, doesn't matter, because what we look at the exploitation, we look at the force being used, we look at all those elements. And when you see minors, it's nearly always clear that there were other people pushing them to work for them in the prostitution, other people who may be claiming the money, other people who tell them what to do. They are not free to leave tomorrow, they're not free not to do the things that they are told to do. So that makes them already involuntarily in that position.
So how do you send out your voice to the countries of origin where these people are coming from?
Yeah, that's very good.
Because if you're only based here and you are only working with the European community, and these people are coming, mainly what I heard Jerry said now, they are coming from African countries. Yes. So how do you send forth your voice to our government or to our country?
Actually, we both at the national level, like the organization Comensha, but also Strada International works much broader. So we work at the European level, but what we do in our network, there are countries of origin, like for example, Bulgaria is also an important country of origin, and there are countries of destination, like for example, the Netherlands. But what we do is we work with NGOs there, and we work much broader. We work at a worldwide level, also with other NGOs. So. For example, Comensha is in contact also with NGOs in Nigeria, have done projects, and there are even Nigerian organizations also in the Netherlands active on the issue. So we do work with other people, and in our work, like for example the figures of Comensha, but also our figures, if we see signals that a certain country pops up much higher and you have to do more, then of course special programs are being developed and designed to address this issue.
So Jerry, how do you take them into Comensha? How do you take the people? Because I didn't know about Comensha before until I just had to search through the internet, and I wanted to do something on this human trafficking.
Okay, we don't actually take the people into Comensha. We are a coordination center. That means that we get calls to help find a shelter for victims. We don't own the shelters. The shelters are owned by shelter organizations.
Yeah.
The police or other organizations, they call us, they tell us we have a victim here who needs shelter. We call the shelters and we look, we listen to the story and find out what kind of needs they have, and we look for a shelter that suits them the best. And we place them in the shelter, and there they get the help that they need, and we try to follow them and see what goes on.
So the people cannot call your organization direct, they have to go through the place?
No, they can call our organization directly if they need help. They cannot. We don't have an office. It's an help desk.
Okay.
So it's a telephone number that they call.
Well, somebody out there listening to this important broadcast, you have heard it all. You can call Comensha by yourself, or you can call Strada for help in case you find out you are being mishandled. You've been brought here, promised heaven and earth, and now you've been mishandled. You have been abused. So please, give us a call. You can call also Voice of Nigeria on 0684-606-550. Then I will forward you to Comensha or Strada. Well, I want to know, what is the root cause of human trafficking and how do people become victims? From your experience.
What we see both at the European level but also at the Dutch level, and Jerrol can add, is that there are various different root causes. Of course, if in a country the political situation is bad, the economic situation is bad, there's not enough employment, if it's very difficult for people to study or to have any hope for work, when their social issues are not very well dealt with, so there's no adequate social support, when there's no, let's say, human rights prevention, then of course you see that more people want to leave a country, and migrants are in general more vulnerable for trafficking because they have less rights in another country. They might accept more vulnerable situations, and they might much easily fall prey to trafficking. Although this said, we also have Dutch girls who of course fall prey to trafficking. So there are also other factors. It could be just the family situation at home. It could be your personal circumstances you're in. Maybe you're in debt. But it could also be, we also have cases that you would never expect those people to end up in problem. People who are well educated, people who had a very good family life, people who maybe still left the country because they had a boyfriend. So it could happen to actually, in fact, any one of us. But you have the main root causes, which are really those things related to social, political, and economic situation.
And for instance, if we look at for instance, if we look at the large group of African victims from the different African countries, if we look at the women, it concerns a lot of young girls who are being brought into the country at a very young age.
Okay.
They are forced to come over here to say that they have no parents. They end up in brothels or locked up in private flats
Yes.
where they are being
Raped.
It's rape. They are being raped
Yes.
on a daily basis.
Yes, yes.
The same thing happens with young boys from the different countries who also come into the country at a very young age, and the criminals know where they are,
Yes.
and they keep track on them, and they know where to find them.
So they have no freedom of movement.
They have no freedom of movement. They are being held in division. And when they are ready to be found, they take them out from the different locations where they are being sheltered, and they use and abuse them.
So which activities may be considered as human trafficking, and what sort of punishment is available for such crimes?
Well, actually what is happening now is that the different police forces are very busy with research to find these criminals. When they find them, they bring them to court. It's very hard to find the big and large organization. If you find one or two criminals, they are mostly part of a larger criminal organization. For instance, the Nigerian criminal organization
Yes.
is very large. It's international. If you end up finding one part of it and getting rid of it, it pops up somewhere else. If you close one part of the border in Europe to stop them bringing in the victims, they find another source and another way to bring them in, and they are always ahead of everyone in finding ways into bringing the victims into the countries.
And what's their rank? What's the rank? What are they ranked? What's the percentage of Nigerians that are here in this?
As, you mean as victims or as...
Yeah, as victims.
Well, as I put it earlier, last year we had 130 Nigerian victims. From this year until September, we've made the count. We have 77 women and let me see, about 20, so you could say up to 100 victims, and that's until September. We think that at the end of this year we are going to have more victims, as every year we have a 10%.
So that means it is increasing more and more.
It's increasing every year, and it's increasing because we find them more. I'm not saying that it's getting more, but we are finding more victims because of the police doing their work very good.
Yeah. Wow. Yes.
Yeah, it's very difficult always to think if trafficking, human trafficking is increases, as people ask us very regularly, or rather we all work harder, like the NGOs, the police, but also the people themselves are much more familiar with the issue and maybe identify themselves as being a trafficked person and then maybe report. So that's what we see. As for punishment, you asked earlier, what I see all over Europe, it differs. It's very often up to 12 years what a person could get, but it's very difficult to give this punishment to a person. If I'm not mistaken, in the Netherlands it's 10 years at the moment.
10 years.
Max
10 years.
12 for minors, but Jerrol knows better about the Dutch situation.
No, that's true.
Give us some of the ratio, Jerry, what you have written, which you want us to know about this.
Sorry?
Give us some of the ratio. You know, Susan told me you wrote some things down, which we're supposed to know about this human trafficking figures.
Well, what I wanted to say, for instance, we are seeing the increase of people coming from Africa. I think there are there's two ends to the story. At one level, men and women, boys and girls are being promised a better future in Europe. I'm not saying that their main aim is to come to Holland. They are focused on Europe, and depends on the criminal organization which country is easier to enter. So they are getting this very nice the promise of a good future, a better future, and that's what pulls them to come to Holland, to Europe. And when they get, for instance, into Holland, Holland is not always the main country where they stay. They are, once in here, they are dispatched to all the different other European countries. Or once they are in another European country, for instance, Italy or Spain or Germany, they are dispatched to the different other European countries. So it's always
they're always on the move.
They're always on the move. That's the way they are more difficult to get to being caught.
So, Netherlands, are they gaining something from this whole thing?
Oh, a lot of money.
Yeah, because I think so. I think
human trafficking, maybe it's even bigger than the drugs traffic, because it's worldwide. It's increasing. It's almost, I think it's a number 2, Suzanne, on the rank.
Yes, although I would feel very difficult to say how much Netherlands earns, because I presume you mean the government. Of course, there were always people who were discussing prostitution and where the taxes earned by prostitution would go, of course, to the government. But I think the biggest problem is actually the money doesn't go to the victims, because those people who do work, who should earn the money they at least worked for, even though they were exploited, a lot of people say, I would still like to get this money in order to be compensated for the misery I have endured. But how much we as a country would profit, I would say we also do a lot. I mean, paying for the police, taking actions. We try to the punishment of traffickers. So I would not say that anyone is willing to continue human trafficking just because it's a profit business. But of course the traffickers do. Traffickers want to get this money and to continue it because it makes them risk. And what you see also, what Jerrol says, is that often they focus on more criminal activities. So they traffic people, but they also traffic drugs or weapons. So they work on more criminal activities. And what I said earlier about the crime and the punishment, often you see also that people might not be punished for trafficking claim because it's very difficult to prove, but then maybe they are punished for being a criminal organization, for example.
Because you need the testimony of the victims in a lot of cases to testify that they are victim of human trafficking. And I think what I would like to state is that prostitution is not always human trafficking. When we look at prostitution and we try to seek out what's going wrong in there, it's the bad things in the prostitution that leads to human trafficking. So I would like to split it up. We focus on the things that do not go good in prostitution that leads to human trafficking. Those are the victims that we deal with.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I think we will be taking a break right now and then give our callers the invitation to call us right now on this topic.